We first got together in 1952 when I came to Colorado State University as a graduate student. I'm 78 now, and he's one of 5 or 6 people who most influenced my personal and professional life.
It's been so a wonderful life being his children.
Yeah, yeah. One of my phrases is, I feel like I was right at the front of the line when God was handing out parents, and my dad has been a great father and grandfather.
I've lived in 19 different countries. I've traveled in 182 countries. I frankly have never met a person as unique as Maury Albertson.
Anyone who's around him sees his passion about wanting to make such a difference, to change the lives for people to the better. That's what his whole life has been about.
He is an inspiration for everyone in the way he's dedicated himself and focused with a laser intensity on what can be done to help us all.
He's a very persuasive man. He can convince you that what you know is not so, and what you know is not so is so.
One of the things I remember him saying to me as a child was, "Oh, that's a wonderful suggestion," he'd say.
That's a wonderful idea. Yeah.
You probably know this already, but Maury is the kind of person who has new ideas every day. He's just full of them. And he can get them started, but then he can't finish up with them. He has to have help.
Found out I was in the Peace Corps, and then he got me hooked. He just put these 2 hands in with these claws, and he said, "We have to go to lunch." And that's when I found out there's no free lunch.
He's very out there. I've got this great idea, and I'm going to convince you it's great, and then I'm going to draw you in, and you're going to do the work for me.
I guess the most important thing that I remember is that he'd call me up about 4:30 or 5 in the morning and say, "Bill, I've been thinking about this problem." And I thought, oh boy, here we go. That was another thing to do.
I think anybody who knew Maury realized that he was a very persistent person.
He's able to globalize an issue and in a manner that draws you into being a part of accepting that globalization of the issue and kind of sucking you in that, well, you should step to the table too and help try and solve it.
He's the kind of person that people gather around and tend to believe in the things that he's doing and about, and he kind of forges the way.
In everything that he does, he has the courage to say what he believes. Because he has such credibility, he can say things that are pretty outlandish and be taken seriously.
Well, I think he loves people. He loves ideas. When you can put people and ideas together and it works, then it just builds on more and more.
Civil engineers, which is what I am, have to work with people.
I would say Maury is not an engineer's engineer. He's a humanitarian who uses engineering to accomplish really broad, high-level, worthwhile goals. He's a people's engineer.
The fact that you're willing to do this for our country and in a larger sense, as the name suggests, for the cause of peace and understanding, I think should make all Americans proud and make them all appreciative.
I was in college when the Peace Corps was founded, and so I have always had wonderful feelings about that organization. And then, so when I learned that Maury had a major role in helping to form what that could look like, frankly, I wasn't a bit surprised.
All the staff was very convinced that this was a major thing that had an enormous potential.
I don't think people in the long run took it as seriously as we did. we took it seriously. This was a wonderful, good thing, and we wanted it to be that way.
In 1959, in January of 59, I started working overseas. There were so many assistance programs that were going on, and I've just constantly found out that poverty was getting worse, not better. And of course, that's what caused me to eventually set up the Consortium for Sustainable Village-Based Development, which is better known as the Village Earth.
We were looking for a way to impact a large group of people without losing the critical relationships that are necessary for good village development.
It would be fair to say that it's a capstone of the things that he's learned in his vast international development experience over the years.
And he's really gone in a very different direction, said small is good, and he's with Village Earth really looking at that. And out of that, he's also saying, ask questions, which is, you know, I mean, we know that, a good teacher, that's what one does, but, you know, as a philosophy of life, it's sort of interesting.
Listen to other people and,
Yeah.
and what it is that they need and want.
The Village Earth concept is the Peace Corps in an adult form, if you will, and takes the whole idea that Peace Corps started with and still has on a scale that works at local village development level.
And his whole approach with Village Earth is going into a village and ensuring that you don't impose your ideas on them. You facilitate, you ask questions, and you come up with a plan that the village has bought into so that projects don't fall into disuse.
He really was a great person to help you move past all these things and find resources and contexts that would be useful and that would actually make things happen. He's a real make things happen guy.
He has this heartfelt belief that we're on this earth to make a difference.
I think that is a part of the Albertson legacy. You can be more than you think you can, and you can do more to help through multiplier type of behavior, both on your students, on your colleagues, on your friends, and especially on large numbers of disadvantaged people all over the planet.
To him, it just isn't interesting unless you're doing something for someone else and you're doing something constructive. He'll say, what is the purpose of life? You know, the purpose of life is to make this world a better place.
"90 years and counting. Happy birthday, Maury. We go back a long time, you and I, but you were already a giant of a dreamer, and I was still in the kindergarten of aspiration when we met in the early 1960s. You imagined a better world and got up every morning to do something about it. I wanted to make a difference, but wasn't sure how. Then, bang, like a starburst, the idea of the Peace Corps lighted up the landscape, and I was fortunate enough to wind up on the organizing team. I still have my dog-eared, heavily underlined copy of your book, New Frontiers for American Youth, that served us as a charter. I remember meeting you at Peace Corps headquarters when you came to brief us, 40 years old, and you were already the grand old man to all of us 20-somethings. You had directed the congressional study into what was first called a Point 4 Youth Corps. You'd just come back from setting up the School of Civil Engineering in Thailand. I was dazzled to know someone who'd traveled so widely abroad and held the world's ordinary people so closely in his heart. I thought you should be president, even if you were a Republican. Anyone who grew up on the American prairie when it was a dust bowl, who had worked in the oil fields to pay for college, who realized so early that water is the stuff of life and devoted himself to making sure there would be enough of it for generations to come, anyone who understood that apathy could chill the soul, who would not tolerate himself being spiritually unemployed, and who called on young people to wage hand-to-hand combat with cynicism, well, I knew that kind of fella could show Americans a different way of being in the world. I remember you telling us once about how you had lived in the parsonage of a Methodist minister during your early college years. You said he told you that we were here on earth for one reason, and that's to put the Sermon on the Mount into practice. You've done just that, Maury. Maybe it's because you were born the last year of that great slaughter we called World War I. Maybe it was your dad's good neighbor policy as he lent a helping hand to so many folks trying to survive the heat and drought of Kansas. Maybe it was the evil that had touched our world at Auschwitz, Dresden, and Hiroshima, or the inspiration of the Thomasites whose teachings of English in the Philippines had inspired you. Whatever it was, something claimed you for the moral side of the human ledger, where what we do for others is the measure of things. The writer William Least Heat Moon once wrote an essay reminding us of those old radio broadcasts that spoke of escaped convicts being at large. A fine phrase, he said, with its implications of an immensity and awareness of life to which the world can summon us as individuals. America, he said, go outward, be at large. You've always carried two passports, Maury, one stamped USA, the other stamped citizen at large. So it's no coincidence that during your 50 years at Colorado State University, the school has sent over 1,400 volunteers into the Peace Corps, Albertson's apostles abroad in the world. But that's only a slice of the story. What you've done for humanity over these 90 years there at Colorado State, across the country, and throughout the Third World is a remarkable and unmatched record. You've touched so many, myself included, and I'm fortunate to have known you. From my own Peace Corps experience came a gift from Albert Schweitzer, a photograph inscribed to the affirmation of life. And so you have lived these 90 years. Happy birthday, Maury.